record. Senator from Kentucky.
I want to commend my friend and colleague from California for these two amendments and proudly be the principal co-sponsors of them. I think the amendments both define the core problems which afflict Indonesia, as well as offer clear support for the organizations and initiatives which will return Indonesia to a path of economic growth as Jakarta launches on a new democratic political course. The road ahead for Indonesia will not be easy, but I'm confident of two things. First, what happens in Jakarta is of enormous strategic importance to the United States. Second, we should take note that the political changes underway are a direct result of the efforts of the Indonesian people. As they suffer an acute economic crisis causing dislocation, devastation, and pain, they've managed to drive and direct a political transition which I am hopeful will lead to an elected and truly government. This course has not been without its horror stories. Let me speak to one of the two amendments which focuses on the ethnic violence which exploded in the spring. For decades, the Indonesian Chinese community has played an important role in generating the exceptional economic growth which improved the quality of life for a majority of Indonesians. Although only 6 million strong, most have deep roots reaching back many generations and consider Indonesia their home. Tragically, for many Indonesian Chinese, their place in Indonesia's rich life came to a shocking and sudden end in the violence which erupted back in May. Indonesian Chinese homes, shops, and businesses were clearly targeted, burned, looted, and destroyed in the riots which broke out. While it is difficult for the police to restore stability anywhere, it seemed to many no effort was made to protect Indonesian Chinese communities and their citizens. Most shocking of all were allegations of rape and attacks on women and young girls. Unfortunately, there are even allegations that police officers and army troops may have engaged in these atrocities. Non-government organizations have estimated that more than 160 women and girls were victims of these awful crimes, many of them Indonesian Chinese. While this violence has a very human face and toll, a number of news accounts have called attention to the crippling economic impact of this ethnic violence. Not only did Indonesian Chinese withdraw their capital, Southeast Asian Chinese in Hong Kong, Taiwan, and elsewhere have pulled out and are reluctant to return. One expert has estimated it will be at least 5 years before the community is confident enough to resume investment, a fact that contributes to Indonesia's already grave economic woes. And who could blame them? This amendment condemns the violence against ethnic Indonesian Chinese, encourages prompt, full action by the government, and provides U.S. support for the effort to investigate and bring to justice those responsible for these outrageous acts. As Indonesia proceeds on its path to build a democratic and free nation, it is essential that the rights of minorities be respected and protected. I believe the government must take steps to fully investigate the violence suffered by the Indonesian Chinese community over the past several months and clearly support efforts to rebuild homes, businesses, and lives. I was encouraged by President Habibie's decision to turn responsibility for the investigation over to the National Human Rights Commission, which has pledged to conduct a prompt, complete investigation of all allegations of attacks and crimes. I welcome the Commission Vice Chairman's response to suggestions that foreign media were generating false accounts of events. He said, quote, "These crimes are so serious they need no exaggeration, and we must not lose sight of that. We want to work carefully and methodically, and I can tell you that the evidence we are obtaining so far is very strong. And yes, it is apparent there were gang rapes, and yes, some were very violent." The Vice Chairman has also confirmed that 20 victims of rape have since died, most by suicide and some within hours of the offenses. Since these preliminary positive signs, there was a report that the Commission was not able to reach any conclusions on the scale or pattern of attacks. I hope the Commission and our embassy will work hard to make sure all the concerns raised by the Indonesian Chinese community are addressed before declaring their work done. Some observers seem to have an impression that this ethnic community is so wealthy they can and should leave Indonesia, but that is simply not the case. As Yusuf Wanadi, a prominent member of the community, noted, the majority of Indonesian Chinese, poor laborers, farmers, fishermen, and small shop owners have no option but to try to survive in Indonesia. His sentiments were echoed by a father of three who said, "The worst thing is that you can't really stay, but there's nowhere else to live. They tell me I'm an Indonesian national, yet I'm starting to feel homeless as well as stateless. Tell me, why should I leave my home?" It is going to take a great deal of effort by a credible elected government to heal these deep rifts dividing Indonesia, which makes the process and prospects of political reform all the more urgent. The Second Amendment of the Senator from California focuses on how the United States can expand and accelerate its support for the reconciliation and recovery. As I made clear in my opening statement, the administration has been consistently behind the curve in supporting such an effort. Although AID's administrator has pledged an expansion of food, medical, and humanitarian relief, very little has actually been made available, in part because the real needs are still a matter of guesswork. Although I've pressed since March, AID still hasn't conducted a nationwide estimate of food shortages or other social safety net requirements. I am also disappointed by the slow pace of AID efforts to work and build upon Indonesia's vast Muslim community organizational network. Two national organizations have clinics, schools, and community centers which already reach out to a majority of the population. Although they have expressed interest in working with AID, cooperation has been slow to materialize. AID must also expand support for political reforms. Media training and technical support, political party building, and legal reforms are all urgently needed to secure the foundation for democratic institutions to constructively shape Indonesia's future. The bill, report, and this amendment encourage improvements and require a report on the conditions and status of our efforts in meeting national needs. The bill's commitment of $100 million, along with these amendments, sets a course for improving our relations and support for the important transition underway in a nation of critical importance to the United States. Instability in Indonesia continues to be an undertow dragging down regional economic recovery, and the Secretary of Defense has been very persuasive in making the case that a further decline into chaos in a country of more than 200 million people, a nation which straddles vital global shipping lanes, is a scenario he believes we should make every effort to prevent. Our support and Indonesian effort are the key to what lies ahead, to success, to building investor confidence, to recovering capital which has fled, to protecting minorities, to restarting the engines of economic growth, to rebuilding American markets, to helping a key ally set a democratic course. Again, I commend the Senator from California for her interest and hard work to restore the vital partnership we share with Indonesia. And as far as I know, Mr. President, there are no objections to these amendments on either side of the aisle, and I recommend that we proceed to passage.
Is there further debate on the amendments? If not, the question are on the two amendments offered by the Senator from California. Without objection, they will be considered in block. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it.
Mr. President,
I move to reconsider.
lay that on the table.
Without objection,
Mr. President?
Senator,
Mr. President?
Senator from Kentucky.
The Senator from Washington has an amendment which we have cleared on both sides of the aisle, and I'd like to give him an opportunity to send that to the desk at this time.
Mr. President.
The Senator from Washington is recognized.